Hi, it's Kim Edwards here. Welcome back to our Intro to 3D, and we're continuing on doing some curve modelling, and we are going to do a piece of fruit. So I'm going to bring some reference into the viewport, so create a free image plane and load in one of the references. There's two, reference A, pair reference A and pair reference B. I'll bring in pair reference B, and then I'll go to the front view, use my move tool, shortcut W, and just move that so the base of the pair is at the origin roughly. Then I'll change my context menu over to surfaces. Shortcut for that is F4, and then I'll go to my curves tab here and create a bezier curve. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, so I'll hold X to snap to the grid first of all, then I'm going to drag the marquee. Looks like I toggle that on. Do another curve there, and then another one here, and I'll adjust them in a second. Okay, that's that. Press Q to exit the tool. So now I've got my sort of curves done. I'll right click and adjust them. So this curve here, you can see, is not looking overly healthy. So I think really I needed to make this one pull out a little bit more. So I just shift right click, I can say this is a bezier corner, and will give me a little handle. So if you need to change some of your curves, you can just shift right click to change the type to bezier corner, bezier, or corner. Right, so this is roughly the shape of my pair. And I'm going to leave the top part open slightly. So just adjust this one down a bit. Okay, the important thing is to make sure that this point here is on the origin, so definitely snap that one with snap to grid so it's definitely on the origin. Okay, so I finished adjusting. I'll press Q, go back into object mode. Okay, so that is excellent. So now that's our first bezier curve. Our second one we're going to do is going to follow the stem. So I'm going to click on my bezier curve again, and this time I'm going to follow the stem pretty much from the center. And I want to have the first part of it go fairly straight out. I'm just going to roughly then follow it. It doesn't need to be too exact. I'll just move these ones just onto the thing there. Maybe I'll make that one a bezier just so it's a bit smoother. So that was just holding shift and holding right click to change the types again. So that's our second curve. Alright, great. I'll jump back out into perspective view now, and I'll move my reference plane, which I should have done before, back on the Z-axis. So the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to, second thing we're going to do, we've made our basic curves, is we're going to use the revolve tool in the surfaces menu to spin this around and create some geometry for it. So under surfaces, click on the options next to revolve with the bezier one selected, the first curve we made, and just reset your settings. So the axis of which it's going to spin around is the y-axis. If you're unsure about axes, you can look down here, y is up. The output type is going to be polygons, and we are going to then say that the polygons are going to be four-sided faces, and that the type that we're going to use is going to be based on our control points, our general settings, general tessellation method. I'm going to say, as we've done before, per span number of isoprams, and we are going to say that we are going to have 8 on the U-axis, and we're going to have 4 on the axes. Okay, and that should do the trick. everything else you can leave the same. Okay, and then we'll click on Revolve, and we've got our geometry made for us. And we'll just go in and just double click, just right click and double check how many edges I've got there. 32, that should be more than enough, that's great. Alright, so we've renamed this to Pear Geometry in the outliner. So I'm just going to call this Pear Geo. And that's pretty good. We'll come back and adjust that in a second. So the next thing we'll do, I'll just do a save. So you can save this as Pear 001. I've already saved mine, just Pear Demo, just in case I crash and come back to it. It happens to everyone. So next we're going to do is we're going to create a stem. The stem we're not going to revolve, the stem we're going to use an extrude feature. So what we'll do is we'll select the border edges at the top of the pear here, just by double clicking them. And I got into edge selection mode. Shortcut for that's F10. And with those border edges at the top selected, we'll go and modify and convert polygon edges to curve. Modify and convert polygon edges to curve. And that creates a NURBS curve for us to use as an extrude function. And the reason why I'm using curves, and you've seen before, is they make, as part of their construction method, UVs, which makes life a lot easier. So we've got that poly to curve 1 selected. Now I will select the bezier 2 curve that we made, and I'm going to go to surfaces. I'm going to go to extrude and the options, and we shall just reset the settings just so we're all on the same page. And as per normal, just check a few things. So we want the path to be at profile, yep, great, and the output type to be polygons, and the same kind of settings that we've had before. So we want it to be quads. Tessellation method, the way that it's going to turn it from NURBS to polygons, is going to be based on general, and we're going to say per span number of isoprams. We're going to set U to being 1 because we've got lots of edges already in our NURBS curve, lots of points, isoprams there, and then in the V I'm going to say 6 and change that per span as well. Alright, and that should do the trick. So now I'll go extrude, and you can see it's constructed a rather, shall we say, thick, in my case, stem. So I'll probably have to make this a bit thinner. Now I can sort of do that a little bit after the fact. I can say that the scale, the further along it goes the curve, I can adjust the scale parameter, which is what I think I'll just do to correct that. Just to get a little bit more close to my original. Okay, so that's that done. I'm just going to do a save and have it. So we've got our 2 surfaces now made. I'm just going to select this, delete the construction history, so edit, delete all by type history. I'll do that on the Pear as well, by pressing G. Yep. And I'm going to rename the extruded surface 1 to Pear Stem Geo. Pear Stem Geo. Nice and neat. Okay, so now step 6, we'll adjust the geometry of the main pear. So I've got, as you can see here with the wireframe on, I've got an excessive number of edges in this middle section. So I'm just going to go to edge mode, which is F10, double click on one of the edges and press Ctrl Delete, which will delete both the edge and the verts. So that will help things as well. The next thing we'll do is we'll have a look at the bottom of the pear. I'll just grab one of these faces here. We just want to make sure that they're all merged together. So if you're using an earlier version of Maya, I would just make sure that you go into vert mode, grab all of those bottom verts and ensure that they're merged together. So just go to edit mesh, so the polygons menu, merge components to center, just to ensure that they're all fused together at the bottom. Okay, so that's now cleaned up. Just go back into the object mode. Yep. Next thing we'll do is we'll adjust the stem. So what we want to do is we want to close the top of the stem. So the first thing that we'll do though is make some of it flare out. So I'm going to get you to grab the border edge at the top and just scale that so you get a kind of nodule there. Scale that a bit bigger. If I press B on my keyboard, I enter the soft selection mode. If I hold B down and drag my middle mouse button left and right, I can decrease the fall off of that. So if I do that, I can kind of get this nodule happening rather easily. Now what I want to do, now I'll just press B to turn the soft selection off, is I could just cap the end of this, but I want to avoid having to make UV, so I'm going to insert an edge loop here. So I'm going to go to edit mesh, and I'm going to go to, move the menus around, mesh tools in Maya 2015, otherwise it'll be in edit mesh, insert edge loop tool, and over in the tool settings, just want to make sure it's on relative distance from the edge, and click, just pretty close to the end there, and then press Q to exit the tool. Now I'll just grab this border edge, and I'll go to select, convert selection to vertices, and then we want to merge all of those to the center, so you can go to edit mesh, merge components to center, and that's cap the end. Now while I'm here, I'm going to just go back to verts mode and just do a little bit of adjusting. Let's move this so that it's pushing in. You can see here in my move settings it's set to normal's average. Just push this in a little bit. Okay, and that's looking sort of okay. Adjust it some more. Perhaps it'll end up being smoothed a little bit. I've already got a nice kind of bulge here. If you don't with yours, get a nice bulge happening over the top of your fruit. Let's use B again. So you can just do some general kind of adjusting of things. Actually, I preferred it before. Okay, so that's the stem done. Now perhaps I should have done this with a few less subdivisions, because it does look like it needs to be smoothed. And I just want to check here if we've got any funny geometry left behind. Kind of seemed like we might have. Just make sure that that's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Alright, go back to 1. Yep. The other thing that you could do is you could just manually go in and sort of adjust these a little bit so that they're not quite so jagged. I just used mesh average vertices for that one. Let's improve things a bit. Okay, so that's that. So you can just adjust the stem. Step 8, as you feel you need to. I might actually just pull this top bit of the pear out while I'm here. Make it a little bit more bulgy. Okay, so that's that. So it's a pretty easy way of you can create, glasses or pillars or all sorts of things with the revolve, and extrude is great for shoelaces and cords and things like that because you get the UVs as part of the process. So we'll just save that, and now we'll make the material. So if you have a look in Edit UVs, this is the polygon menu in the UV texture editor. They've both got laid out in the grid UVs, which makes life a lot easier. And we'll start making material for the pear. So select your pear geo, right click and assign a new material. Choose Spline. We will rename this to Pear Matte. Pear_matte. And we'll start to insert some textures. So for the colour, or for the bump first, click on the checker swatch next to the bump attribute. Create render node, choose File, and we're going to select bump value and then load in with a folder icon brown pear bump.jpg. And we need to see textures in the viewport to see that, and as you can see by default, that is way too strong. So go back to your object, go back into the bump attribute, and then click output connections, and we're going to change the bump depth to something a lot softer. These are just numbers I got by eye. So we're going to adjust that to be 0.05, something like that. So that's the bump applied. Yep. I had it as 0.02 actually. The next thing we'll do is also we'll tile this texture a little bit. So in the file node, if you go to the output connection, in the file node, go to the input connection for that, we're going to repeat or tile these textures. So I'm going to say repeat UV2, repeat UV2. So if you're back in the object selection, you can't find that, just go to the file attribute, find place 2D texture, and then repeat UV here, 2 and 2, which means they're just going to repeat twice. Okay, so now we'll put the color attribute in. So click on the color attribute, file. I'm already in the place node, so I may as well put repeat UV2 there. And then I'll load in the file, which is brown pear color.jpg. Excellent. Sorry, retrial that. Good. Okay, so now we're going to use the black and white bump map to control the specular highlights. So we'll do that slightly differently. I'm going to go Window, Rendering Editors, and open up the Hypershade. There's the pear material. I can go Graph, Input-Output connections on that. And then I'm going to use the middle. I'm going to select this file 1, which is the black and white texture that we're using for bump. Press the middle mouse button down and drag it onto pear material. I'm going to choose specular color. So you can already see over down in here under color balance that it's generating an alpha channel based on luminance of the brightness of this image, and that's coming out of here. Oh, well, it's actually the out color attribute. That's coming out of here into the bump attribute, and the color, the RGB values, are coming out here and to control the specular color. So that is that. Alright, so then we'll just adjust some of our settings, and really you do this with all icon. But these are the settings I adjusted earlier. So down in eccentricity under specular shading, I'm going to change that to 0.37, and specular roll off to 0.4, and reflection to 0. And then down in the Mentor tab, one, better load Mentoray from the looks of things. So if Mentoray doesn't come up, Window, Settings, Preferences, Plugin Manager, and find MAYA to Mentoray, which is usually down the bottom here, MAYA to Mentoray. I'll load that in. Then I should have some more options. Just render across. There's that. So if I scroll back down now here on my material, I've got the Mentoray section. And over in scatter radius, we're going to put 3.25 in. So it'll do a translucent kind of scattering effect. I'm going to enter a color. I color picked it from the other brown Pear reference image, but the values were 26, 0.575 and 0.910. That doesn't look right. 26.575, 910. That does not look right. I think the hue is wrong. 26. That would be why. Whoops. 26. That's the color. Okay, so that's that. Done. And then for the stem, just delete the history. I'll assign, same process, I'll assign a new material. I'll also put a blend. I'll go up to color, and in the color I'll choose file. Load the file, which is Pear stem color, and then I'm going to also put that into the bump mapping attribute. So under file, Pear stem color, and I'm just going to adjust the bump to the depth a little bit on that one. It's not completely strong, 2.5, and then I'm going to just adjust some of the other attributes. So we'll go turn reflection off, we'll make the roll off much higher, specular color will drop right down, and under Mentoray we'll also put some scattering on. So we'll give it 1.5 scatter radius, which is just on scene scale, and we'll give fall off none like the other one, and same color as before, should be in your swatch. Okay, so then finishing up, you would just add some lights to this and have a look. Just move my reference out of the way, so I can just group my bezier curves that we use to construct it. Let's press P. Curves just to clean things up. We hide that, and put some lights in to have a look at your Pear and materials, and then adjust accordingly. Render a little bit. Okay, that's that. So I'll show you the scene that I had before. I mucked around with it for a bit. Pear fin. I'll just pop out this. So you can see I've got 3 different lights. Put a ground plane in, and then I've rendered out an image which looks like this. Yep. So it's a nice technique using revolve and extrude, and then turning that into geometry and getting you these for free. I hope that was useful to you. Thank you for watching.